The Lumix S5 is here, and now it might be a good time to switch from Micro Four Thirds to full frame. And in this video I'll give you some ideas why you might want to switch to full frame, but I also give you some ideas why you might want to stay with Micro Four Thirds. Hi guys, my name is Matti Sulanto. I'm a photographer and a Lumix ambassador from Helsinki, Finland. And in this video, I want to talk about if it's now time to switch from Lumix Micro Four Thirds to Lumix full frame. And the reason to make this video is that lately I've received so many questions and messages from you guys. Some of you are asking me directly if it's now time to switch from Micro Four Thirds to a full frame, and some of you are contemplating if it's now time to make the switch. And the reason is this camera, the Lumix S5, that was recently officially launched. And in this video I'm going to give you some ideas why you might want to switch and also some idea why you might not want to switch. But before I begin, I'd like to say that whenever you are thinking about switching systems, whatever those systems are, camera systems, you should think it over very carefully and consider if those possible benefits that the new system is likely to offer are real. Sometimes, you know, we think that a new camera or new camera system will give us this and that, but in the end, those benefits are not real. They are just an excuse to buy another camera or a camera system. And also in this video, I'm not going to say that the full frame is better than Micro Four Thirds or Micro Four Thirds is better than full frame. I'll just give you some reasons that in my opinion might make it or break it. And I'm going to talk specifically about switching from Lumix Micro Four Thirds to Lumix full frame. And the timing is good now because the S5 is a really attractive camera, and it's small and compact, and also the price is reasonable. It's not a cheap camera by no means, but the price is reasonable. It's not the several thousand euros or US dollars anymore. But now let's finally get to the point, and I'm gonna start by listing a few reasons why you should switch from Micro Four Thirds to full frame. And the first and by far the most important reason is the image quality. The S5 only offers 4 more megapixels compared to, for example, the G9, which has 20 megapixels. But that's not the whole truth, because the bigger sensor offers much better high ISO performance, about 2 stops, and that is a lot. So currently, if you're using a Micro Four Thirds camera like the G9 for example, and the highest ISO you comfortably want to use is maybe ISO 6400. That's my highest ISO that I comfortably can use on the G9. Anything higher than that is only for emergencies. To get the same kind of image quality, you can go as high as 25,600 on the S5. And then there is of course the dynamic range, which is also a lot better on a big full frame sensor compared to a Micro Four Thirds sensor. And the more challenging the shooting conditions are, the more benefits you get from the big sensor in the S5. Think about the astrophotography, for example. People generally use very high ISO in that, and it's also required because the sky is quite dark and the stars are not that bright after all. And when I see what people do to their Micro Four Thirds pictures in post, I'm sure that many would benefit from the bigger sensor in the S5. And the next reason is the live composite mode. Yes, I know the live composite is also on the G90/95 micro four thirds camera. But the S5 also has the live composite mode, and the live composite mode shines in challenging conditions like star photography, night photography, and all kinds of challenging conditions. And that's why I think the big sensor together with the live composite mode is offers many benefits, and you can get so much better results if you're into that kind of photography. I'm not saying that the live composite mode on the G90 is somehow bad or flawed. It's not. The G90 performs really well, but like I said, the live composite mode really shines in many challenging conditions like star photography, night photography, and all that, where the big sensor, the benefits of the big sensor are really significant. So I think the live composite mode is one more reason to switch if you are doing a lot of that kind of photography in the first place. And the third reason to get a full frame camera is the vintage lenses. If you are into vintage lenses and you like them, then a full frame camera is the right choice. I know many people are using vintage lenses also on micro four thirds cameras, but a micro four thirds camera can only use a small fraction of the image circle of a vintage lens. And here I'm talking about 35mm vintage lenses because they are by far the most popular, and some of those lenses can offer really attractive value for money. But because the so-called full frame sensor is the same size as a 35mm negative, then the full frame camera can use the full image circle of a vintage lens, and it can also offer the full picture from a vintage lens. And when you use vintage lenses, you're not usually looking for the best optical quality. You are looking for a special look or special effect or something. And that special look or special effect usually happens towards the edges of the frame. So if you cut out the outer part of the image circle, you most likely also lose the most of the character of the vintage lens. But if you mount the vintage lens on a full frame camera, then you can see the full image as it was intended when the lens was designed, and you can also see the full character of the lens because you see the full picture. And of course, many vintage lenses are also very good optically, but I still think most of us, when we are looking at vintage lenses, we are looking for some sort of special rendering characteristics rather than exceptional or the best possible image quality, because that exceptional image quality we can easily get when we buy a new lens. And now let's talk about some reasons why you might want to keep your micro four thirds camera. And the first reason is long lenses. There are so many amateur photographers who love wildlife and bird photography. And to do that you need a long lens. And a micro four thirds system offers really exceptional value for money when it comes to long telephoto lenses. You can get an 800mm equivalent telephoto lens for only a fraction of a price of a full frame 800mm lens. So if you are into any kind of photography where you need super telephoto reach, then that's definitely one reason to stay with Micro Four Thirds, because no other system offers similar value for money and similar compactness when it comes to super telephoto lenses. And the next is the size. Yes, the S5 is really compact for a full-frame camera. It is smaller than, for example, the Lumix G9. But when you need a really compact camera, then you can't beat Micro Four Thirds, because there is no full-frame camera that looks like this. And when I need a really compact camera, I'm gonna take my Lumix GX880 with the 14mm f2.5 lens. This is the ultimate street photographer's camera, or maybe not the ultimate, but very, very good for that. And no matter how compact the S5 is, it can never, be this compact. So the size is still a very good reason to stay with Micro Four Thirds, because there are still extremely compact lenses for Micro Four Thirds system, and some of the camera bodies are also really, really compact. And one more reason to stay with your Micro Four Thirds camera, and that is the price. Yes, the S5 is not really extremely expensive camera, but it's still a lot more expensive than, for example, the Lumix G90. And also some of the lenses for Micro Four Thirds are really inexpensive, and you can build a whole system for very little money if you just plan ahead a little bit, look for special offers, and some of the lenses are just really affordable even at their normal prices. So the price is one more reason to stay with Micro Four Thirds. And I know some of you are going to say that I will never ever switch to full frame, which is good, but however, I think it's also good to keep an open mind, and if another system, whatever that system is, can offer you some benefits for your photography, then I think it's not a bad idea to take those benefits. However, like I said earlier, you should always think it over very carefully before you buy any new gear. Never buy any new gear too hastily. And make sure those benefits are real that you think the new system is going to offer. And my Lumix S5 review is coming out soon, so stay tuned for that. And meanwhile, take a look at the 20 to 60mm zoom lens review that I have here. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.